Thank you, Neeraj. I've been able to drag Neeraj down from Delhi. This is his first speaking assignment in 3 years' time, so I really appreciate him coming down here. Um, so maybe Neeraj, we can start up with. Would love to hear the paperboard journey. Unlike the other new age brands, you've really been there for. It's been over a decade that you've been around. So yeah, would just love you to take us through your journey.
Yeah, I think I think ours is an interesting journey, and a lot of entrepreneurs in the room would relate to it. We have made our share of mistakes. Unlike Hari, I have made a lot of them, but I think one of the bigger things which I have learned over the last few years is that if you stay put, things work out. We last few years have been very, very good for us. We are now close to 1,000 crore run rate. We are profitable, growing at a exceptionally 60-odd% CAGR for last few years. And I think that's probably one of the bigger lessons for all of you is like, there are ups and downs, and most of the journeys go through that, ours went. But if you stay put, you stay true to your fundamentals, I think the results start coming. So
I think just hearing that 1,000 crore number itself, that's a big feat for any consumer brand. So kudos to you for really staying the course. It's a long, tiring journey, and with lots of ups and downs. And to weather that storm you need to be built of steel. So can you just, if you can take us through a little bit of that offline and online, and what happened in terms of when you started, in the middle where you are, and today where you are. I mean, that'll give, I think, the other entrepreneurs in the room a good perspective.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the early days of paperboard. So first time when we got listed at Big Bazaar, we came back and celebrated quite a bit that night. Like, we were drinking till 1 a.m. because we got listed on Big Bazaar that day. However, we did not know at that time that was one of the bigger mistakes we have done at that time, because we got listed at a very high margin to them. When you are small and when you get listed for the first time, you don't care. You don't have a negotiation power with the buyer. The industry is at 20% margin to them, but if they ask you at 30-35%, you will give that. So that, I think, is that's a core problem in a startup when you're talking about online or MT, that for the first listing you end up giving so much margin away, it stays with you. There is no renegotiation of margins that happen ever. Like, I have not seen one margin getting renegotiated at any stage in our thing. So we are living with those high margins for a very, very long time, and it's very, very difficult to make money for rest of your journey with the large platform. On the other hand, we are primarily a GT business. We are 80% GT, general trade, and this where I think it gives you more freedom in terms of negotiating with the retailers. You are more equal or probably better power. You can talk in terms of equals. If the product is moving, you can discuss margins, etc. Which is tough with larger platforms when you're dealing with larger platforms. So I think it's, however, building a GT distribution is tough for smaller brands. So I think it's kind of it's a tough problem. All of us have gone through the same thing, whosoever starts in an early stage. But yeah, I think that's one core issue which you will face all through your journeys. That how do you manage both of these worlds, dealing with large platforms versus dealing with smaller?
Got it. I think most of the entrepreneurs in this room are early stage, so they'll probably be going through this journey right now as we speak. So that's a lot of sort of words of wisdom from your experience, of course. But what do you do? Because on one end, gross margin and just having good gross margin profile is of course critical as an entrepreneur, as a business. But in terms of mitigation, right? One of the things that you said is that fine, you'll go to general trade. There you'll probably get a better margin. And once these margins will stay with you for life. But what are the other? How else do you offset that? Because on one end, you've been around for 10 years, and sustainability is critical as well. So how do you balance growth with sustainability?
So, I think so. For us, we were fortunate because we were surrounded by a very good, strong set of investors. Choosing the investors, I think, is very, very important. You will go through those ups and downs. There would be times when things are not going as per business plan, and there could be other investors who probably wouldn't have supported us during that time, and probably it would have made the journey that much more tough. But I think finding those investors around you are patient, more long term, really helped us. There is no clear answer to it. Like, the problem is circular. If you want to have higher GM, the only way you can get a higher GM is give consumer a higher MRP. If you give consumer a higher MRP or not give consumer good value, your TAM shrinks. Like, the consumer would not buy a 130, 140 rupees drink very easily. And obviously building a GT platform is tough because the burn rate is very high of getting those manpower at early stage in your journey. But if you go and list in Montrade, e-commerce, quick commerce, Amazon, you are a new brand, they will ask for higher margin. Like the buyer, so there is a difference between what the top management at what Damodar would be thinking or what Hari would be thinking about promoting the small brands versus what the buyer is thinking, right? There is a buyer in these places, and that buyer has two targets. Like he has a top line target and he has a bottom line target. Top line targets he does by selling the large companies, right? Like in large companies, he doesn't have a negotiating power. He's generally asking for better fill rate, stocks and all. For meeting his bottom line target, he has to squeeze in small brands like us, right? Like who are number 2 or 3 or 4 player in that category. So he will ask for higher margin. And then if you have to protect so you are not efficient in terms of your supply chain. You are giving higher margin to the retailer. Your efficiency of manpower is also not very good. The only way to protect your gross margin is give a higher MRP to the consumer. And as soon as you do it, your TAM shrinks. Like so, it's a circular problem. I think you will have to keep attacking each layer at every point of time. Scale answers a lot of that stuff as you start gaining scale. There are a lot of answers start emerging. But yeah.
No, I mean, a lot of questions coming to my mind as you're talking. But as a consumer, right? I remember my first tryst with paperboat was when we were on the airplanes, right? And in Indigo, you were served the paperboat drink. And would you say those were some of those hacks in terms of awareness creation or brand building? How much of that has helped in terms of function of spending on branding versus getting top line, and how do you balance that?
No, so obviously I think Indigo partnership is something which we cherish that really helped us build a brand in the early phase, and so are others like partnering with Reliance. Big Basket was a huge supporter in the very early phase of our journey. So these things helped quite a bit in consumer getting to know the brand. However, the scale happened, but scale didn't happen because of that. So we were a very big brand in 2015-16, but our business was very small. Like we were known very well, but I was always ashamed of telling my turnover because the brand was far bigger than the turnover, right? Like you are a sub 100 crore company and brand a lot of people know about. I think that switched when we started looking at a broader retail universe, where we started looking at tier 2, tier 3 markets, when we're trying to understand the consumer a little bit better. So the first thing helped, obviously, like people still talk about that most of the, this is one conversation which, so when I travel Indigo, and I only travel Indigo because way of paying back to them. So when I will sit and 5 people in the same row are consuming your product, you are very happy. Like that was a moment of happiness for you that you're sitting and there are 5 people, and then I'll take a slide picture being very, very happy. However, I think, and that was 5 years back, but now when you see that, there is still happiness, but the happiness is more when Reliance drops the packaging pricing. Like, when you see fuel prices going down and you think margins would be better, right? So I think there is a change in what you like. So that still gives you happiness. I'm not saying that those consumers drinking it doesn't give you, but it's not the. Earlier that was the only source which will keep you going, but now I think it's you life teaches you, right, like that you have to earn money at the end of the day, and so those partnerships help you build a brand, but don't give you money, right? Like so.
No, and of course I've heard you speak before, maybe over 3 years back before COVID, but and you spoke about investors and getting the right investors. So just touching up on that, right? And when is how much is enough, and when should you, as an entrepreneur, have, what are the watch outs that in terms of getting the right investor on board? What did you think of, and some of those successes or failures with respect to that?
So we have been very, very fortunate in getting the right set of investors all through. Like, not one bad instance. Actually, last night, Hari and I were discussing about this, and I was telling him that like not one bad instance of one bad investor. The only mistake I made was 2015. I raised money at humongous valuation. Like, my valuation was very, very high. I was doing a turnover of around 40 odd crore. I raised money at 600 crore pre-money valuation. And I was very happy that night also. And that is probably the biggest mistake in this whole journey. Like, raising money at that high valuation makes you try to live up to that valuation from next day onwards. And then the only way to do that is you have a lot of money sitting in the bank and you burn your way through it. And I did that in a spectacular fashion. So I think, finding right investors is key. Raising money at a higher valuation than what you deserve is a huge mistake for entrepreneur. It's good for other investors. It's good for your angel investor. It's good for the investor who is doing a secondary. It's the worst thing for an entrepreneur to raise money at higher valuation. I think counterintuitive, like, because higher valuation is celebrated, and we were celebrated, but that mistake costed us a lot. Like, a lot of sleepless night, try to live up to that valuation.
No, and again, I'll put you on the spot here, but I remember, Neeraj saying this, that, and again, would love to hear it from you rather than me, but, he said that जब भी कोई entrepreneur को ज़्यादा valuation मिल जाता है, and he gets a lot of money in the bank, तो वो entrepreneur को लगता है कि वो Steve Jobs बन गया. So,
yes, I think correct, right? So you build a self-image bordering almost narcissism, like when you get that high valuation and a lot of money in your bank. I think that it's natural. You are in love with yourself because you are doing this wonderful thing and you are saving the world. And then you try taking those crazy calls which have no basis of reality, right? Like, no sense of reality. You just think that I am a visionary and I can do some stuff which nobody else has thought about. You disregard people who are advising you around you because you think I am like there's nobody like me before. And it happens. I do not beat myself for being that, because that was the moment. But then life teaches you after some time, and then you learn and adopt, and that's the best part of us being humans, right? We learn and adopt, and then improve our way of working.
Thanks. Yeah, no, thank you for that, Neeraj. But I think, can you tell us, even over time, what are the changing consumer preferences that you've seen? Because I think short durations, actually, you don't have enough data points. And, because you've had this 10-year journey and a lot has changed in the country, what are those shifts that when you started and in the middle and right now, what shifted in the consumer?
So India is beautiful that way, right? Like I think it's a very large country. There are like countries within the country, and so there is this health and health and wellness shift, which is there in very prominent in South Delhi, South Bombay, Indranagar, and very prominent. Like they'll only talk about that, and that's there. I think the products, but it gets undue attention from everybody in launching those health and wellness products. There is also that 200, 300 million consumers who are for the first time. There are 300 million consumers for the first time whose average income would be above 20,000, 25,000 rupees per month. For the first time, 200, 300 million consumers. It's an extremely large number. It's like almost adding a country of consumers in a country which is existing, and so they are not talking about vegan and other stuff. Like they are consuming for the first time. They are having. So last year, so we have pomegranate is one of our larger fruits. Last year, 1.5 lakh households in India, they tasted pomegranate juice for the first time in their lives. Like, so if you go to tier 2, tier 3 towns, anar is a very expensive fruit. They generally don't get it. Nobody makes juice out of it in tier 2, tier 3 towns. For the first time, 1.5 lakh household, like they opened a bottle and drank pomegranate juice for the first time in their lives. Like they have never tasted how this drink tastes like, right? So those people are coming to the consumer. So there is both sides of India which exist. There are both sides of market which are there. Health and wellness is obviously there, definitely there in some like the areas which we move around, and one needs to innovate for that. And but I think there is another India also which is ready for consumption for the first time, and that's probably I think is bigger hope for all of us, right? So.
No, thank you. And how does that change? In terms of regionally, north, south, west, east, and how does Hector Beverages sort of respond to that in terms of these changing preferences and the shift in go-to-market? Is it the same across the board, or in some places are you seeing a different go-to-market in the north versus south, for example?
I think not too much difference in the. There are some minor difference that if you have to set up a distribution in Bombay, you will have to give extra margins. You will have to give the PSR that extra salary. And in some West Bengal upcountry market, that could be cheaper, but not a lot of difference in terms of how the thing operates. We have now 12 factories which are spread all across. Same model, like these factories are there and they cater to that region. So like, latest we have a factory in Guwahati now or Mandi. Like most of these factories, they cater to that region. And we have around 4,500 distributors. We cover around 6 lakh outlets. So this is pretty much pan-India distribution, which is generally the case, built over in tech-enabled as like many of these, that helps. So, yeah.
What can you tell the entrepreneurs, in terms of offline, 6 lakhs outlets? That's quite a feat. That's a lot. So, how do you prioritize? Say, offline and expansion? And what are those first principles that you'd use in terms of when you want to go offline? What should you be doing?
You see, I think the giving value to consumer is important. I think you will have to design your products. So in general trade, you can't give discounts on the pack, which is the case with, you can price your product very expensive and then discount it in modern trade and e-commerce and somewhat under your control. In general trade, it's not the case. You will have to design your products which give value to the consumer. You have to design your products which break the clutter on the shelf. Packaging is extremely important because you are not, your product has to speak for itself. So I think those things are far more important in general trade. So you have to see if you have to design a product for general trade, it's very different from if you have to design a product for Instamart, right? Like that app, you will have to. So the whole design thing is different. The pack, which looks very good on that small screen, does not look very good on the shelf in in Meerut, a small mom and pop store, right? So you will have to think about those two very differently. Things which work here would not work here, work there, and but yeah, I think you will have to prioritize on those things.
And just moving on from a brand story, one of the things again as a consumer that we remember is this whole association of paperboat with nostalgia and childhood memories, if I recollect. So how did you? Those are like strong consumer insights. So what led to? I mean, if you can just share some more information in terms of how did you come about to that sort of positioning and thinking.
Yeah. So I think Paperboat is the flagship brand, is what we are known for because everybody is drinking at Indigo. But it's only 20% of our business, right? Like 80% of our business is not Paperboat. And but that brand Paperboat is, is we wanted to give traditional beverages in a modern format. I think that's the core of that brand. So we said it's a traditional product in a modern format. We didn't want to go Chyawanprash route because we thought that younger generation would not consume it. So we didn't want to take. So that's why this brand, like we said, is natural inside and modern outside. We said is innocence inside and hope outside, and that's how we came. Those circles of innocence and hope became the brand name Paperboat. And it struck a chord with the consumer. So brand is far more powerful than the business it is. It has, and we haven't spent money on the brand for now almost 3 odd years, but it still resonates quite a bit with the consumers all across. So so I think that I think there was a need state for that innocence and hope in a world. There were a lot of clutter around, and so I think that we fulfilled at that stage.
And with Paperboat being the master brand, if I can call it, under that, what are the other sub categories or the other categories that you launched, which then helped you de-risk boat in some way and create a market in other categories?
I think our biggest brand is Swing, which is around 600 odd crore. Like it's one of the, I don't think so any one of you would know there is a brand like that which exists because tier 2, tier 3 band, and it's grown up quietly, and we haven't spent any money on advertising that brand. I think that's our core product, and that is what is driving this company forward. And I'm pretty sure like 90% of this room or 95% of this room wouldn't have seen that product, and it is there in tier 2, tier 3 town where there is a need, where there is a lot of consumers coming for the first time and consuming that. So that's our core high growth engine for the company. I think that's.
I think finally, what is the sort of advice that you would give, right? If in hindsight, now everything's 2020 in hindsight. So what would you have? Some of the things that you've done differently, or what would you do if you were starting up now? What would excite you right now?
So I will exchange my seat with anyone of that seat without any hesitation, because India is a beautiful place right now, much more beautiful than 10 years back, and I'm pretty sure Harsh would exchange his seat with you for any of the the opportunity to create is that much more now, right? Like it's just beautiful right now what's happening in this country. The consumption story is just seeming, it's bursting. Every year we make an aggressive plan, we put up capacity. Every year we fall short of demand, and so it's just it's nothing great we are doing. It's the tailwinds behind us which are helping. I think you guys, right? It's just a fortunate place to be. That we are inheriting this high growth environment, large consumption play. I think the only advice would I say is that just look for more people who can advise you. I think, we make mistakes. I made mistakes. I wish I was surrounded by a better set of mentors who would have probably advised me better. And maybe and I would listen to them also. Like probably they were mentors who were advising me, but I was probably too arrogant to listen to them at that stage, and I made those mistakes. So I think be humble and listen to people around you is the only advice I'll say.
No, that's fantastic. I think one last question actually. What's the future of retail to you? I mean, of course, there's online, offline, and this whole quick commerce. So how do you see it evolving?
So no, I'm not expert here, but my hope is that general trade stays. Like I think that's important for India. It's important for employment generation. It's important for anybody. I hope that stays. I don't know. I have actually no idea about it. I can't comment.
Sure. Yeah. No, really, thank you so much for all the totally candid and open feedback that you're giving to entrepreneurs. I think we can all take notes and really just hear out what you've just said. So I think with that we can sort of open it up for questions as well.
Hi Neeraj, thank you so much for being so candid. My name is Anuj. I run a storytelling community. It's called Terribly Tiny Tales. And my team and the entire community is 5 million people really, and they absolutely love paperboard storytelling. It's one of the first brands genuinely that stood out as a modern brand when we consumed it. The packaging, the language, the writing, everything, copywriting is like still masterclass. I wanted to ask you this question. You said the brand was much bigger than the business actually was. Did that benefit you though? And now that you look back, what would you do differently? Because I'm sure the talkability of the brand did benefit you, but you also mentioned that it was not good for the business.
I would have cut my media spends by 80%. Like I wasted too much money on advertisement during that phase when the distribution wasn't there, product market fit was a bit shaky. I would not have wasted that much money. Like I think that's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, hi Neeraj. I run a brand called Zook. My question to you is this: as founders, from the 0 to 100 crore journey, from 100 to 300, 300 to 1000, as a founder, how did you approach your day-to-day or your week, where earlier maybe a lot of things you might be doing to now team and etc. So if you can shed some light on how a founder needs to grow as well from the initial journey to the more scale-up journey.
See, I think I think that all of you know, right? It's a very selfish play. Entrepreneurship is a very selfish play. Everybody around you is suffering, right? Like your wife, your kids, your parents, but you are very happy, right? Like so, because you are doing something which you want to do, you are trying to go solve some problems which nobody else knows about, but you are, at the end of the day, nobody is bothered, but you are very happy that I have solved this today. And yeah. So I think it's an extremely selfish journey. So you enjoy every bit of it. Like, I don't see, not one day, in spite of there were troubled times, you enjoy it. But I think I personally think 0 to 100 crore was the toughest time. You are finding a product market fit, but it was also tough from my learning perspective, because first generation entrepreneurs, you make a lot of mistakes, and when you raise VC money, there is a pressure to do it faster, and then the mistakes get, accentuated. So I think that was the toughest part of the journey. Post 100 crores, life has been, is similarly enjoyable, but little less problematic, I would say. So.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tanvi. I have a brand called Apni Dharti. I was wondering if you could give some advice on how to accelerate distribution. So the continuous meeting the distributor and the retailers and all seems like a slower process. how is it that we can get the product to be, on a lot more shelves much faster at the offline? And did the brand, being big, help with that for you?
See, my only advice on building general trade distribution is never give credit. It's counterintuitive. A lot of people say it in the early phase. If you do not give credit to any distributor, you take the problem head on and try to find answers on. So if you are selling the product on cash, your mistakes are minimized. It's the automatic stabilizer built in your journey. If you give credit, that month end would be okay. But then there are, after multiple months, you will start finding those problems which will start emerging because you had this closing in February or March. So, rest of the stuff, I think everybody has to figure out. But we don't do any business on credit now. And if I have to restart again, I would never give credit at any stage of my journey to anybody, essentially. So.
I'm sorry, do you mind?
Can we have the mic there, please? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, am I audible? Hi, Neeraj. I'm one of the very few people, the 10%, who know what swing is because I make my beverage in the same facility in Indore. And so I have lots of questions for you, but I'll keep it brief. One, I want to understand at what stage of the business do you own your manufacturing versus contract manufacturing? We currently contract manufacture. And the second is, before swing, when were you really sure that you have a product market fit? Because swing is a much lower price point product, which you recently, a few years back, you launched. So were you really sure that you have a product market fit before that?
So, the first question about, own manufacturing and this thing. I would say, if you can put up a very small capex and run a very small facility, I'm not talking about multiple crores, something very small in the first phase of your journey, it will help you retweak your product if there are, consumer feedback, which is not possible with co-packers as much. Co-packers would say that if you have to take a trial run of 3-4 hours, I'll charge 2 lakh rupees. And then you don't want to take that trial because such a wastage of money. And then the product doesn't improve. So I don't say a full commercial thing, but something which is very small, pilot scale, which can sell some commercial product, not very large, but even if it can make 1 lakh rupee per day kind of a product, I think still 50,000 rupees kind of product per day. I think I think I would, or very strong relationship with co-pack, either one of those two things. Beyond that, I think it's not a core activity for us. It depends on different people, but for us, it's not a core activity. So we have a model in which we invest in machinery, but land building is done by the co-packer, and they, most of these facilities are dedicated to us. They are, so I think that's the model we follow, because manufacturing is not, it's not our core. We don't do it. There are other people who can do it better than us. So I think a tough answer, but in the first phase, I still find that flexibility of having a small pilot plant which can do something for you, where you can improve your product. On the product market fit question, I think market tells you. I think whenever you are in that stage where demand is higher than you can supply, I think there is something happening. So till that time, I think there is always questions whether the PMF is there or not.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rahul Gala. I run a brand called Blue Buxa. My question to you is, as a company, since it's a packaged food company, how much importance do you all give to sustainability? Not asking.
I can't hear you very clearly.
I'm asking, as a company, how much importance do you give to sustainability, given that you all are a packaged food company? Not asking it as a superficial question, but, a lot of people are now giving importance to sustainability and, maybe the impact on demand will be very less, but, going forward, say 10, 15, 20 years, people will become more environmental conscious and, maybe then the impact on your demand will be more than today.
So, correct. So I think, see, this is also, life teaches you these lessons, right? So we were, obviously all of us are idealistic, and I hope that idealism stay with you for a longer time. So we were the first company to get fair trade to India. We worked with them, made sure that the whole supply chain is fair trade certified. Worked with farmers in Gujarat, different places. It's very tough. Like, it's just, nobody is ready to, they have a list of things to do and farmers are not ready because there is not enough demand. We trying to find buyers in Europe for those farmers because we can get it certified fair trade here. We certified it. Nobody, gave us any money, any premium for that. And it's not that anybody picked it up from anything else. Like, people wanted per gram itna hai, uska itna hai. Ab ye fair trade certificate laga hua hai upar, like, nobody is giving us any credit for that. So the answer to that is, it's not, it doesn't mean that we should stop trying. I think we should keep trying. And someday there is enough consumers who value for that. And so we have to keep trying and this is the responsibility of this room to not let that idealism go and protect the future. But do not expect any results in the short run. And if it is adding too much to your cost, then reevaluate it again.
I think we just have one last question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Mike?
Hi, you spoke about mentorship and having good mentors in the early days. What would you look for in a great mentor?
See, with all due respect to everybody else, I think if you're building a company, somebody who's built a company is a good mentor. I think because there is something which you go through that journey, it makes you a different human. There is something to that journey, I think, which is different than other normal journeys. And I'm not saying with any amount of disrespect, but I think it teaches you a lot of other things in life. And entrepreneurship is about, it's not about that one idea or thing. It's about, some 360-degree stuff which happens, and then everything has to fall into place for you to succeed. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Neeraj. Really appreciate it. Thank you.